We tend to look at lighthouses as immovable fortresses, concrete and stone monoliths engineered to stand completely frozen against the ocean. But the historical record tells a different story. Over centuries, these structures are routinely gutted by technological obsolescence, ripped apart by storms, and entirely swallowed by the sea. They are in a constant state of being rebuilt from the ground up. It is the Ship of Theseus at sea. If the masonry tower shatters, if the optical glass is swapped, if the human keeper becomes binary code, and the ground washes away, is it still the same lighthouse? When every physical piece of the original structure, the technology and the human operators are gone, what is actually left? To find the answer, we have to investigate the engineering records of the French coast, where the survival of a lighthouse often has very little to do with its physical matter. The northern edge of the Gironde estuary in France is one of the most unstable coastlines in Europe. The shoreline is retreating so quickly that the local maritime administration has to treat its infrastructure as a moving target. This is Phare de la Coubre. Since 1830, this single geographic hazard has claimed 5 consecutive lighthouse towers: a wooden pyramid, a masonry turret, a timber scaffold, and a massive stone tower have all either collapsed into the waves or been abandoned to the sand. Even the current concrete tower, built in 1905, is now approaching a safety threshold that may trigger its deconstruction. Yet throughout 2 centuries of destruction, the Maritime Administration never viewed the lighthouse as dead. When a tower was doomed, they simply uninstalled the optical equipment, built the new structure further inland, and maintained the signal. At La Coubre, the tower isn't the lighthouse. It is a consumable vessel for a navigational mandate that outlives the stone itself. If the tower is a shell, what about the technology inside? Our men, built on the Chaussée de San Reef, represents the extreme effort required to keep a signal alive. It is known as the Hell of Hells. It took 14 years of lethal labor just to secure the base against the Atlantic. For over a century, our men's signature 3-flash rhythm relied on a mechanical masterpiece, a massive vat of liquid mercury that allowed the heavy optic to rotate with near-zero friction. But in 2019, modern environmental regulations forced a radical change. This heritage mechanism, the very heart of the lighthouse's operation, was surgically extracted and airlifted out by helicopter to eliminate the risk of mercury toxicity. The state readily gutted the internal organs of a classified monument to ensure the 3-flash signal could survive into a new era of safety. Finally, we have the king of lighthouses, Phare de Cordouan. It is a site of continuous architectural layering, a medieval fire beacon that evolved into a Renaissance palace and then a rationalist monument. In 1823, it became the most technologically important site in the world when Augustin Fresnel installed the first lenticular optic here. But today, that lens is gone, shipped to a museum and replaced by more efficient modern systems. The humans are gone too. In 2012, the state keepers were permanently replaced by civilian guides. Their job is no longer to maintain a light, but to curate a monument. Even when the founding technology and the human operators are stripped away, the identity of Cordouan survives. It is held together by institutional stewardship and a deep cultural memory. By looking at these 3 sites, we can map the logic of how infrastructure survives its own physical erasure, the LUX Lights Continuity Theory. First, purpose survives its carriers. The need to warn ships remains even after the tower falls. Identity is not held within physical assets. Lenses, masonry, and mechanics are subject to obsolescence. Identity is the continuity of purpose moving through changing assets, an unbroken line of operation. This follows a 6-step life cycle: born from need, operating through purpose, recognized through its signal, carried by temporary assets, preserved by stewardship, and surviving as cultural memory. This evidence suggests that a lighthouse is not a building at all. It is an immaterial system of continuity that simply uses physical forms as temporary hosts. This pattern of continuity through change isn't unique to the ocean. Once you recognize it, you see it everywhere in the complex systems that define our lives. Century-old corporations maintain a specific identity. Even when founding employees have died, the headquarters has been relocated, and the original product is replaced. The company is the mandate, not the staff. In digital networks, an artificial intelligence remains the same entity even as its physical hardware is swapped out and its training data is completely updated. Like the tower at Coubre, the server is just a disposable shell. Even your own biology follows this logic. Your cells are constantly dying and replacing themselves. The material that makes up your body today is not what you were born with, and yet the person fundamentally remains you. Across history, technology, and biology, we see the same principle. Identity relies on a continuous purpose, using physical vessels as temporary platforms. The stone tower out in the Atlantic is exactly what the French engineers knew it to be, a heavily fortified pedestal fighting a slow, losing battle against nature. What actually survives is the geographic mandate to mark the hazard and the unyielding optical rhythm of the signal. The masonry falls to erosion. The optics move to museums. The keepers are replaced by code. Because the light is not the lighthouse. It is the immaterial identity that survives the lighthouse.